Canada's foreign minister fights back. Canada's Foreign Minister Melanie Joly gave a strong answer to Trump's 25% tax on Canadian exports. She told the US straight up that Canada won't back off. This isn't just about taxes anymore, it's about safety, military teamwork, and who controls resources. Will Canada break away from needing the US so much, or will Trump force them to give in? Canada buys more stuff from the US than any other country. In 2023, trade between them topped $800 billion. But even with that tight connection, Trump slapped a 25% tax on Canadian aluminum, steel, car parts, and lumber. Right away, building costs in the US went up, shaking the housing market. Car prices climbed. US companies now pay more for Canadian parts. Regular people are feeling it with higher costs for food, gas, and everyday items. Experts say this trade war could wipe out tons of jobs as Canada just put a 25% tax on $155 billion worth of US goods, messing up $700 billion in trade between the two countries. What's gonna happen next in this trade fight? Canada isn't sitting quietly. On March 4th, the Canadian government said they're adding a 25% tax on US stuff like cars, energy, and steel. This is their way of hitting back at Trump's US tax rules. The trade war is getting bigger, turning two friendly neighbor countries into rivals, even though they've been close for a long time. How this hurts US car companies. The car business is getting hit hard. Big US companies like Tesla, Ford, and GM will have to pay more because of Canada's 25% tax on cars and car parts coming from the US. With $700 billion in trade every year between the US and Canada, this is going to mess up how things are made and make cars cost more. Popular trucks like the Chevrolet Silverado and GMC Sierra, which are built in both countries, will feel the pain right away. On top of that, Ontario, a part of Canada, is stepping in with a big decision. They're adding a 25% extra charge on electricity they send to the US. They've even said they might stop sending electricity altogether if things get worse. This isn't just about trade, it's a big problem for the US because they need that power. People are worried about what this means for the future of US-Canada teamwork. This trade war isn't just hurting certain businesses, it's making life tougher for everyone. Canada's stock market, called the S&P/TSX, dropped by 1.5%, showing that companies and people who invest money are nervous. The Bank of Canada says if this keeps going, the country could lose up to 3% of its money growth in 2 years. That means fewer jobs, businesses losing money, and higher prices for regular people. The way cars are made is getting all mixed up. Canada and Mexico make about 5.3 million cars every year, and 70% of them go to the US. These new taxes mean it costs more to make cars, and it might take longer to get new ones. Plus, US taxes on Canadian goods make things from the US more expensive in Canada, so people there aren't buying as much. This means higher car prices and living costs for folks in both countries. Canada isn't just fighting with taxes, they're also playing smart with ads. They've put up billboards and run TV ads in 12 US states like Florida, Georgia, Nevada, and New Hampshire. These ads tell Americans how the trade war hurts them, especially with an election coming up. It's a clever way to push US leaders to think twice while showing people what's at stake. What's next? Can they fix this? The big question is whether the US and Canada can work things out. With prices going up and supply problems getting worse, can their leaders find a way to stop this fight? Both sides are losing a lot, but is there a simple fix to avoid bigger money troubles? Will the trade war keep going, or will they figure it out before things get really bad? Stick around to find out. Mexico's leader, Claudia Sheinbaum, is standing up to Trump, saying, "We won't give in." Is that enough to change Trump's mind? Mexico isn't just pushing back against US rules, it's fighting back hard, putting Trump in a tough spot. Trump keeps threatening new taxes, but Mexico is ready with its own plans. For example, Mexico sends car parts to big US car makers in Detroit. If Mexico raises taxes on those parts, US car companies will pay more. In 2022, the US got over $60 billion in parts from Mexico. This could make cars way more expensive for Americans. Mexico also sends a lot of food and oil to the US. If they cut back on those, food prices could shoot up, hitting everyday Americans hard. US stores depend on Mexico for fruits, veggies, and meat, so any slowdown would raise prices everywhere. Mexico's even hinted at closing the border for a bit, which would stop the US supply chain in its tracks. Being right next to the US, Mexico could use this as a big weapon against the US economy. Things get even trickier because Sheinbaum says Mexico won't block migrants just because the US wants them to. "We won't stop people from crossing if the US tells us to," she said. If migrants keep rushing the US-Mexico border, Trump could face a huge problem, especially since it's happening during the 2025 election time. Too many migrants could turn into a giant political mess for Trump. The US is thinking about putting soldiers along the border to control it. That could mean troops dealing with migrants face to face, which brings up big legal questions. Is this allowed? What does it mean for stopping people from crossing? With an election coming, this is going to be a hot topic. Every year, Mexico handles millions of migrants, mostly from places like Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. If Mexico stops helping, over 100,000 people could cross into the US each month, creating the biggest migrant crisis ever. Mexico isn't just fighting with money moves, they're starting a push against US control. Scheinbaum said, "We'll live free on our land, not under Washington's orders." This fired up countries like Venezuela, Cuba, and Brazil to back Mexico. It's not just Mexico anymore. It could turn into a group of Latin American countries teaming up against the US. Can Mexico hold strong against Trump, or will the US hit back even harder? Keep watching to see what happens. And both sides. How Chris Rock got Trump mad the Apprentice crew is running everything. Trump, his daughter Omarosa, they're in charge. In under 10 minutes, comedian Chris Rock started a huge buzz online, getting over 5 million views and tons of memes on Twitter. What made this blow up? Rock had everyone laughing right away, saying Trump's leadership is like a TV show. In just 12 hours, his clip got shared 2 million times. He turned Trump's serious image into a big joke. They've got Elon. They'll stick him in a rocket, call it Space Max. Oh, and J-Lo's marrying Ben again just to stay here, he said. Rock kept going, talking about Trump's money flops. Those casinos in Atlantic City? Rock says it's almost impossible to fail that bad, he joked. Forbes says Trump had 6 big money busts, making Rock's bit funny and true. He's worried. We're all worried. We've got Luigi. That's good. I feel bad for the family. Everyone's stuck on how good this guy looks. If he looked like Jonah Hill, no one would care. He'd be gone already. It got better. Rock brought up Trump's weird moments, like when he drew on a hurricane map with a Sharpie in 2019, or stared at the sun during an eclipse in 2017. Those stories made Trump Sharpie searches jump 300% in a day. It was gonna hit Florida and Georgia, maybe the Gulf. That's what they thought, then it turned. Rock laughed. Rock's jokes hit Trump where it hurts, his pride. Trump fired back on Truth Social, calling Rock rude and not funny, but people online loved it. Memes spread fast, taking over social media in hours. A war hero got caught? I don't vote for someone who got caught. I want the one who got away, Rock said. Trump wasn't the only one mad. Melania Trump, who's usually super calm, got dragged into it. News said she was upset about being part of the joke. Old videos of her dodging Trump's hand went big again, and Melania Trump searches shot up 450% in a day. Thank you. Before we start, let's talk about it. Trump's in the hospital with COVID, and my heart goes out to COVID, Rock said. This wasn't just laughs, it was a total online craze. Twitter and Instagram blew up with Trump and Melania memes, getting over 2 million shares. Rock's comedy went way beyond the stage, becoming a real piece of US culture. Don't look away, more wild stuff is coming. There's a lot to unpack with all the people listening, from crazy money promises to wildland ideas and giving Elon Musk tons of power. Trump's speech showed he says one thing but does another. Is this a sign his leadership's shaky? Trump said he'd stop price rises right away and make things cheaper. With our tax cuts, we'll lower taxes on stuff made here. And like before, we'll let companies write off everything, he said. But that same week, the stock market dropped 1,300 points. Prices for food, building stuff, and electronics kept going up. An expert on TV said Trump's words don't match what's happening. His taxes on Canada and China make raw stuff cost more, pushing prices up, not down. This gap between what he says and what's real makes people wonder if he can keep his promises. Trump didn't stop with money talk. He surprised everyone with big land plans. In front of Congress, he said, "To Greenland's great people, we back your right to choose. And if you want, join the US. We need Greenland for our and the world's. We're working on it, and we'll get it one way or another." Denmark fired back fast. Their leader said, "Greenland's not for sale, that's ridiculous." Trump kept going, saying the US should take back the Panama Canal. "Americans built it for us, not others," he claimed, but Panama's had it since 1999. Panama's government called Trump's words a big attack on their rights. These ideas are messing up ties with friends and making people ask, is Trump protecting the US or just grabbing more power? In his speech, Trump promised to get rid of unelected officials. "No more rule by people we didn't pick," he said. But just days before, his team ditched a big phone deal with Verizon and gave it to Elon Musk's Starlink. Someone online said, "Trump talks about cutting red tape, but he's handing the government to a rich tech guy." Musk's acting like a second boss now. Even Trump fans were shocked. A conservative TV guy, Dave Portnoy, said this one's off. Musk's basically co-leader. Trump says he's cutting out unelected people, but he's giving huge power to someone outside the government.